Good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Tuesday, September 1st, 2015. This is The Connection on LiveTalk. I am Tungabili Nkomo.
And I am Tatenda Gumbo.
Tonight, we are discussing young Zimbabweans who have benefited from various sponsored scholarships, especially abroad, and the impact they are making upon return back home.
Let's get talking live on Studio 7 and our social media platforms. Find us on Facebook at VOA Studio 7 or on Twitter at Studio 7 VOA. We can also get things going on our WhatsApp number, and that number is plus 011-202-465-0318.
And of course, if you want to contribute live on air, give us a call at the following number, 001-202-619-2077. That number again, 001-202-619-2077. So give us a call and we will call you right back.
And of course, we are also streaming live on the internet. You can head over to our web pages, voazimbabwe.com, voashona.com, and also voandebele.com to check us out live on air.
This is Studio 7, coming to you live from the Voice of America in Washington.
In the past 2 years, hundreds of young Zimbabweans have trotted the globe under various prestigious programs in various countries with the intent of sealing new skills, practices, programs, and companies to improve and develop Zimbabwe. These programs include the Mandela Washington Fellowship created by U.S. President Barack Obama, the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program founded by Elumelu, a Nigerian businessman, to uplift young Africans, and the Sheving Scholarship created to access UK-based tertiary institutions, among many other programs.
Upon return, these young Zimbabweans have flooded their respective sectors with the skills and knowledge they have gained to develop the country. Some have hit the ground running, continuing their work in the health, education, and legal sectors, while others have begun feeding into the sprawling entrepreneurship hub growing in Zimbabwe. But the question becomes, have these projects really been fruitful? And with the state of the economy, are these young people able to adequately implement these changes? So today we talk to some of the beneficiaries live on Studio 7.
I think it should be very interesting in Tunga to find out what they've been doing since leaving so many of these respectable and prominent programs.
Ongo tatenda maswera sei vatereri tirikusangana muchirongwa chanhasi chirongwa chevechidiki, chirongwa chatinomuunzira nechipiri chega chega pano pastudio 7, chirongwa The Connection. Nhasi tiri kutarisa zvirongwa zvedzidzo zviri kuitwa nedzimwe nyika kana kuti nevanhu vakazvimirirawo nevanhu vakazvimirira vanenge Tony Elumelu musvinabhisimuzi wekunigeria, tichitarisawo zvirongwa zvakafanana neMandela Washington Fellowship. Tiri kurukura nevechidiki vakambopindawo muzvirongwa izvi kunzwa kuti ruzivo rwavakawana vari kurushandisa sei, uyezve avo vane mabhizimusi tichanzwawo kuti mabhizimusi avo ari kufamba sei. Lichona njani mthwakazo omuhle, siyadibana lamhlanje kuhlelo lwabasakhulayo, uhlelo The Connection. Lamhlanje sixoxa labasakhulayo abaphatheke kunhlelo zemfundo ezichiyeneyo ezifana lohlelo lweMandela Washington Fellowship, iTony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. Siza kuzwa kwabanye abaphatheke kunhlelo lezo ukuthi ulwazi abalutholileyo balusebenzisa njani ukuthuthukisa impilo zabo kumbe impilo zabanye abanye ngabalamabhizimusi siza kuzwa ke njalo kubo ukubana balusebenzisa njani lolo lwazi ukuthuthukisa ilizwe leZimbabwe kanye lamabhizimusi abo.
Siyabonga Ntunga. And of course, to get things going, we can't help but have one of our wonderful Mandela Washington Fellows who's here on attachment with us, Voice of America Studio 7, to join us. So we're going to milk you as much as we can before we send you back home.
You are allowed.
That is Tato Mochone. And of course, as I said, she is a Mandela Washington Fellow and one of those young Africans who will be returning home upon her experience here in the U.S. to implement all that she's learned. Tato, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Mochone, we are kind of taking a stock today. Your colleagues went back home like 2-3 weeks ago. And of course, we'll be having some of them live on air today. But you've been with us for the past like 3 weeks now. How do you like what we do, and how have you benefited?
I personally have benefited in so many ways, when you compare the way things are done back home and you compare that with what is being done here, and you realize that this is how it should be done. And it is not happening this way home because there is no freedom of speech, yet the claim was that we have that, because if we say there is democracy in Southern Africa or in Africa, but yet at the same time people are still scared for their lives, to report on issues, and there are certain things that they cannot touch. That's really a very big challenge. So I think those are some of the things. You come here, you get the training, but the challenge is when you go back home, you worry about the authorities, you worry about going back to the same system that says you cannot do this, and then there comes the term westernization. You come with your Western tendencies. And I realize it's not even Western tendencies. It's just the fear of change and it's like you are challenging the authority, and it cannot be done because the authority does not okay it.
And very interesting indeed. And we spoke earlier about the Chevening scholarship. There's 20 Zimbabweans, among them young people who will be taking part in this program in the next few weeks or days. They'll be heading to England to various institutions of learning. And those 20, Adrian Chari, Angela Jimo, Blessing Gorejena, Zenzo Spanda, Mandy, Guy Hai, Claudius Muserere, Pezisai Nemaziva, Tariro Muzorori, Innocent Muleya, Fundo, Mlilo Samson Zimuto, Philip Dauti, Simbarashe Magege, Granti Murewa Nema, Gilfen Moyo, Martin Takawa, Sibusisiwe Ndlovu, Nomen Matara Tafadzwa Machirori, and last but not least, Cora Magia. Bazaba be Sema University, Achieneyo ge awe Ngilandi. Okomiaga, they are going there for 1 year. And we have spoken to them, of course, including Fundom Lilo in our program earlier, and they are really excited.
So I hope the ones we shouted out will be very open to us calling them during their time while they're in the UK. But of course, in Tunga, we do have some guests who are joining us on the air now to discuss our topic today. The first one is Constantine Nyanzero, who is one of the participants with the Global Entrepreneurship Summit that happened in Kenya when President Barack Obama was there. Costa, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And we also have with us Ntunga. I think we have Tawanda. Do you have Tawanda on the line with us? Tawanda Mushaire?
Yes, there. How are you? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tawanda. Tawanda was with the Tony Emelumu entrepreneurship program there in Nigeria. So, of course, he'll give us his take on what happened there. So, start off with you, Costa.
Yeah.
There's a terrible line. I'm not sure whether it's Costa or Tawanda, but we are getting, too much feedback. I think it's Costa's line. We might have to drop your line and call you back, Costa. But in the meantime, I'll go to Tawanda. Tawanda, tell us, I know we spoke earlier, but in brief, tell us how the Tony Elumelu program has changed your life, and how has that transformed your business?
Thank you very much, Tunamili. As we discussed earlier, some weeks ago, we were given the capital and the technical know-how of operating a business in Africa with the ideas from other countries in Africa. And our business plans, they are being approved in America by a company called Accenture. So we have used that information to run properly our businesses. And as for me, I've set up everything. My workshop is the Grenade site, Harare. And I've employed 3 people who are going to be operating one of the machines. As I said, I'm into waste management.
Mm-hmm. And, Tawanda, would you say that, upon your time with this entrepreneurship program and your return to Zimbabwe, that you even right away were able to implement some very basic changes that helped you in your business practice?
Yeah, it is a very good program that we went through. It was theoretical for the past 3 months, and then we went for a boot camp there in Nigeria. And when we came back, we were then supposed to implement what we had learned for the past three months, and we did exactly like that. And the results are quite good. And you see that what you have gone through in theory, when you are now going through the practically, you have to be able to be on your feet and able to adjust to the changes that would have taken place in the market and also in the business world.
Okay, thank you, Tawanda. Costa, are you on the line? Okay. Ungati taurira mkoma Constantine kuti kuinda kana kuti kupinda muchirongwa che Global Entrepreneurship Summit kwakakubasira sei?
Going to Global Entrepreneurship Summit for me and Basra is good because unlike most people who are going to they are entrepreneurs, I mean I'm a sort of like an entrepreneurship system architect. I focus more on developing the ecosystem. I work for a company on the emerging ideas. I think we are very strong on the program. Here we do push night. And I'm also working for Innovation Baraza, where we're trying to give my entrepreneurs a platform where they can exhibit and also at the same time meet my entrepreneurs. So for me, I met very interesting people at GS. I met Ben White, who was the founder of VC for Africa. I think, if anyone, Ben White is the most knowledgeable person I report about entrepreneurs and my investors in Africa. I also got some time I also spent quite some time with Ashish Taka, a billionaire from Uganda. And it was interesting to see my dynamics between Kenya, the way the government has supported entrepreneurship, they've gotten the corporates involved, and where we are in Zimbabwe.
Thank you there, Costa. Tato, will come back to you. You're hearing your counterparts here who've been in similar programs and, what they've gone through. When you go back home, what are the first things that you want to implement on the ground? Be it maybe best practices or be it just the general things that you've had the ability to learn, while you've been here.
Okay. What I've learned is, for me, when you join radio and you find the way of doing things in place and you just went and you just go in and blend with the style. That's what I've been doing. But ever since I got here, I realized that radio is more than that. Media is such a powerful tool. I learned that here. And there are so many issues of interest that I should be addressing. So I have learned that with my experience here, I should be addressing human issues. I should be addressing issues that affect the people, not just focusing on Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne and shout-outs, on radio. There are a lot of things that I can do on and with my time on radio, touching lives, educating, and not just focusing on entertainment, which is what I was doing.
Do you think that people will be receptive to that?
Now that is a problem. And it is not a problem that people are not going to accept that. It is just that naturally people like change is unsettling. Whether it is good or bad, it is unsettling. But when people see that this is for a good cause, actually they blend in. And what I've learned here is that people love news. People love being informed, and they love to hear about them on radio. And when you talk about issues of HIV and AIDS and LGBTI and religion, and you're actually talking to the people about issues that affect them. And there is not a way that people are not going to be receptive to such. Whereas back in the past, it was me and music and, phone calls, how are you doing, where you are, which I really feel like so much waste of time for that particular time that I spent on radio, and that was all that I was doing. I wasted so much time. Instead, I should have been addressing issues of gender equality, LGBTI issues, HIV and AIDS, and many other things of relevance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tato, you are beating yourself up for wasting some time, but I don't think you wasted time, really, because entertainment is part of, television is part of entertainment, is part of radio. So you were doing one thing, right? But now, instead of, regretting what you were doing, you should be like, okay, I'm going to go a step further. That's the attitude I think you should adopt. And we have our third, or rather fourth guest on the line, Mnumzana Promise Muleya. Mnumzana Muleya, kunjani?
Ngiyaphila baba mthungameli ngabe linjani khonapho ngibulise abalaleli kuzo zonke izigaba zomhlaba.
Yeah, siyaphila Mnumzana Mleya. Ungasitshela ungomunye wabaphatheke kuhlelo leMandela Washington Fellowship. Libuyelile ekhaya kumaviki amathathu edluleyo. Seliphendukile, selisenza njalo imisebenzi yenu. Ungathanda ukusichasisela Mnumzana Mleya ukubana kuyini osokuguqukile ngokufunde ngapha kundlela oyenza ngayo umsebenzi wakho kathesi?
Ngiyabonga baba mthungameli. Ngathi into esiphatheke ngayo kathesi sikhangela ungathi leadership development plan. Ukuthi ukuthi sisaqela ukuthi indlela abami esingasebenza ngazo thina nkokeli ezisakhulayo. So ngenye inhlelo esayitholayo kudelo lolu ole Mandela Washington Fellowship ubana siqedisise leadership development plan yethu. Sizabe sibhala singathi imibuzo eqhakathekileyo ezayenza ukuthi sitheleze izinhlelo zethu kakuhle. Nganika umzekeliso umsebenzi wami. So lapha ngizama ukudinga ukuthi kahle nganceda njani abantu njalo ukuthi ngiguqule ubuyanga obusemangweni yakithi sisebenzisa imfundo njalo
zinika abantwana esengathi nama-agricultural skills ezikoleni. So into engifuna ukuyenza okwamanje ukuthi kade singisathela ukuthi yebo bengisekele emelika ngafunda ngabona ngayenza ubudlelwane labantu abathize abavela kwamanye amazwe. Into engifuna ukuyenza nxa sengise edinga ngifuna ukukhangela izikolo lapho engisebenza ngazo ukuthi ayikhariyande ukuthi singancedisana njani ukuthi abantwana bebebonakala belima izilimo zabo bethola ukudla esingathi ngabe yilanchi emini. Ngisho khonapho ngifuna ukuthi umzekeliso lowo ungatheleli esikolo esisodwa, ngifuna ukuthi siqelise kuzikolo zonke ezisemangweni yakithi edinga. Ngathi ngamafitane indlela engilazo ngingeze futhi njalo ngilama-meetings engiwathelele athize. Ngifuna ukuhlangana lo meli wephalamende wesigaba sakithi uMnumzana Dubeko ukuthi ngixoxisane laye ukuthi kambe yini engiyifundileyo kwele melika, iziphi indlela esengizitholile ukuthi siguqule umumo esedinga. Njalo ngizahlangana le nduna zakithi, njalo ngisenza njalo ngifuna ukuyenza okuthiwa i-outreach. Ngixoxisane lomunye esasilayo lapho kuMandela Washington Fellowship uSizile Nyamande, lo Yvonne Dila, labanye abathile ukuthi lezi outreach program zivakashele amadolobha athi iWande, Victoria Falls, Inga, zivakashele izikolo ukuthi njengoba lisazi ukuthi ihlelo lolu kuzabe kukhipha abanye abafika kweli-1,000 kumnyaka ozayo e-Afrika jikelele yonke. Sizama ukuthi sisebenzise abanye abantwana abasakhulayo abangabe bafuna ukuphatheka kulolu hlelo, sibatshengisa, sibafundisa lokho esikufundileyo kuli-fellowship, kuli-program. Okunye okubalisela abathi YALI learning. So into esizazenza ngathi ngamafitane Mnumzana Nkosi.
Siyabonga aqhubeka ubambile khonapho Mnumzana Muleya. Hanzi tine mumwe guest wedu nasi tatenda vatangai murangari tinomugamuchirai muchirongwa.
Maita zvenyu.
Tangai, we spoke to you earlier about program yedu Shishona, but if you can just expound on what you're doing back on the ground now that you have returned back home to Zim. What exactly are you doing and what have you been able to implement since your return from the Mandela Washington Fellowship program?
Okay, for me it's really been an exciting time. Just before I left, I took it upon myself to leave the job that I was currently in. I thought I needed a new start. I thought I needed to do something new. And so on my return, I started a consulting firm. And just as I came back, I negotiated the implementation of my first 12-month consulting contract, which in all honesty was at least 1.5 times or at least 0.5 times what I was getting before I left. And I think I would attribute at least the ability to close that contract to the way in which I was looking at things, the way I was looking at how I was facing business in Zimbabwe. And so I've been, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, based at a new client, totally different from what I was doing, and I'm finding it quite exciting. And I'm really excited about the next 12 to 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tinotenda va Murangari. Back to you, Tato. Let me put you in the spot, rather on the spot. You talked about issues of LGDP. what do you call
LGBTI.
Yeah.
Q.
Yeah. And those are gay issues. And in most African countries, including Zimbabwe, there's a hot button issue because our societies are largely conservative. How's that issue being, held in your country, Lesotho?
It's still the same case as Zimbabwe, but I think like as a young leader now, Mandela Washington Fellow. This is why I said earlier, I regret the time that I wasted, because as a young person, when you grow up, you have goals and you know this is what I want to do. So I was there and I was thinking, I'm just playing music, I'm not touching lives. So the issues of LGBTI, these are the issues that our communities need to be sensitized about, because whether we like it or not, we have these people in our societies, and we cannot kill them. We cannot beat them up. What is it that they are taking from you as a person? If they're not taking anything from you, and if they feel they are okay living that way, can't we let them be? And it goes on to say, to a point where I say someone has to say something. And if you are a media personnel and you have the voice, you have that influence, you have that impact, many people listen to you. And for me, I thought it was a calling, like to represent the minority, the underrepresented. So it's not an easy thing to do, but how do you approach it? How do you make people understand? I always make an example of someone that drinks alcohol and someone that doesn't drink. That's what I always say to people. Think of this person as a person who drinks alcohol if you don't. Or think of this person as a person who doesn't drink alcohol if you don't. What is it that you don't like about them? What you don't like about them is that they're doing something that you're not doing. If they're not in your space, let them be. So it's a very sensitive issue, and you'll be stepping on so many toes, and you'll be in conflict with so many big institutions, from your church to your the tradition and the authorities maybe. But at the end of the day, it has to be done.
I'd like to pose this to you, but also to our other guests to also answer this question in their respective fields. What you're talking about, there might be some people who would say, okay, that's the American. You're coming with your American mindset. You went to America for 6 weeks, for 12 weeks, and now you've adopted this American mindset. What's your response to that?
Okay, luckily for me, I started before I came here on that issue.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, change is unsettling. The majority of the time, people will say that because you are exposing them to something new. Most of the time, it's something that is going to benefit them. Or if the person is not going to benefit, other people are going to benefit from that. That is why you get those mentalities. And I think, like as leaders, you just have to think about, how am I going to deal with this negativity? How do I go about it? And you're not going to be defensive, of course, but you have to make people see from your corner how you are seeing things. Don't force them into your ideas, but make them see that, okay, this is how I see these things. How do you see it? And not force or impose things like when you get home and then you just force everyone to be okay with the LGBTI, but make them see things the way they are.
Tawanda, Tine, 1 minute before we go to our break, we'll come to you really quickly. Tawanda, what's your take on the question of change, or some changes that you've wanted to implement in the overall practices in Zimbabwe? Has there been any drawback to that?
Sorry, can you come again on your question?
Are there any issues that you're facing in terms of drawback of the changes you want to make in your particular industry?
No, there are no changes, but the outlook of the economy in Zimbabwe, as you are aware that a lot of people they are having their contracts terminated. So we are also looking forward to maybe a decrease in our sales emanating from that effect. But we have started these small businesses in a harsh economic condition, and we do expect to come across quite a number of difficulties, but we are still looking forward to be able to have something positive out of it.
Thank you there, Tawanda. Just hold on the line. And of course, to the rest of our panelists and guests, Constantine, Promise, and Tangai, if you just can hold on the line there, we'll come right back to you as we take this moment, and Tunga, of course, to say goodbye to our radio listeners, but head over to the web. And Tunga, where can they find us?
It's www.voazimbabwe.com. We are live streaming on that our website.
And good evening again for those of you who have been joining us, and for those of you just joining us, you are watching Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Tuesday, September 1st. And this is Live Talk, The Connection. And tonight we are talking about young Zimbabweans who have made their way across the globe in different scholarship programs, but also different prestigious programs such as the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, to return home and push their impact and be able to implement some of the skills and knowledge that they have learned while abroad. Ntunga. Yes,
Ms. T, and we should mention that the Zimbabwean president, President Robert Mugabe, also has a presidential scholarship. But currently, it's not happening because of shortage of funds. Mm-hmm. We tried to reach out to Chris Mushowe, who is coordinating this program, but to no avail. His cell phone wasn't going through. Mm-hmm. But after the program was stopped a few years ago because of lack of funds, the government started inviting interested candidates this year to register, to go for scholarships in South Africa. And we understand that registration is currently underway. Mm-hmm. But really, we wanted to get in touch with Mr. Mushowe to get an insight into this program and really get to the bottom of the matter, but we were unable to do so. But Mr. Mugabe himself came out, I think, last week. No, not last week, but last month, complaining that people who have benefited from this his scholarship program, most of them have largely remained in South Africa, where mm-hmm. they were going to various universities, and they have no control over it. And he was regretting that probably they should have put a clause that when you finish your scholarship, you should come back and work for the government for a certain number of years before you are let off the hook. Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of programs, of course, do include there, so that people can return home to at least attempt or try to implement some of the things that they have learned while they are abroad.
Indeed. Mnumzana Mule ngize kuwe ungathi yiziphi indubo ohlangana lazo khathesi sikhangela ukuthi ibhizimusi yakho mbe ngithi inhlanganiso yakho iphathisa abantwana bayesikolo, kodwa sikhangela ukuthi umnotho kawenzi kuhle, into zimi manzonzo elizweni. Yiziphi ingxaki ongathi uhlangana lazo?
Ngiyabonga Mthungameli, kunzima sibili kulolu hambo. Njengoba ngisazi umumo okuleli kulizwe okwathesi unzima. Abantu abaningi abala msebenzi okubangela ukuthi bengatholi ukudla. Okwathesi belebhinga ngathi Zimbabwe jikelele izulu alinanga kuhle kunyaka ophelileyo. Njalo abantu abavunanga emasimini lapho. Into enzima kakhulu leyo ukudla. into leyo kufaka ngaphansi kwamakhala akula wakathe. So into engathi iyabuyisela muva umsebenzi lo esabizama ukuwenza ukuthi abantwana behambe esikole. Yebo abantwana bayathola imali yokubhadalelwa, yebo bayathola izingwalo, kodwa umntwana ukuthi esuke ngibo umango ongange-5 kilometers 10 kilometers ehamba ngenyawo engadlanga, kusuka kube nzima. Lowo mntwana angeke efunde kakuhle. So lezi singathi ngezinye indlela esihlangana lazo okwathesi ukuthi abantu basegula akula lapho ukuthi ebangancedakala ngakho. So ngathi sibili yikho lenye i-problem engathi iba khona ukuswelakala kwezindlu zokufundela. Njengange-primary eKhariyangwe kulodubo lokuthi kwakhiwe indlu yokufundela yabantwana laba abangaphansi kwa-grade 0. Ngenye into engathi iyasibambelela kakhulu, yasibisela muva. Ungakhathalekile siyazama ngazo indlela ukuthi labo bantu abasincedisayo, ngathi njengoba ukuhambeni kwami engiyenzileyo e-America lapha, ngenza ubudlelwane labantu abathize ababalisela eMartin Luther King Middle School eBerkeley, abathe khona bazanceda endaweni yokudla lapha ebantwaneni ukuthi senze i-joint grant application bona ukuthi abantwana laba bengancedakala njani especially endaweni yokudla singakayathi izivande zethu esikhuluma ngazo. Ngathi ngamafitshane sihlangana lazo olumango wakithi.
Siyabonga mnumzana Muleya. Va Murangari ndiwe kwa muri. Tichitarisa ma scholarships aya kana kuti zvirongwa izvi tichitarisa Mandela Washington Fellowship iri kusponsor neAmerica. Tony Elumelu entrepreneurship program iri kusponsor nava Tony Elumelu vekuNigeria. Pane ye chirongwa chechevening cheku England uko chiri kusponsor nehurumende yeku England. Hurumende yekuZimbabwe mungati iri kuita zvakakwana here kusimudzira vechidiki panyaya dzedzidzo apa? Va Murangari?
I think we have
lost Mr. Murangari. I'll pose that question to Va Nyanzero. Va Nyanzero Murundinzo?
Yes.
Ya pindura henyu ndati tichitarisa kuti zvirongwa izvi zvakawanda cheMandela Washington Fellowship chiri kusponsor nehurumende yeAmerica, Tony Elumelu chiri kusponsor nava Tony Elumelu vekuNigeria, uyezve chirongwa chechevening chiri kusponsor nehurumende yekuEngland. Mungati hurumende yeZimbabwe iri kuita zvakakwana here kusimudzira vechidiki panyaya dzedzidzo apa?
I think our government is doing something, but in the wrong direction. If you notice my programs, which you are talking about, Kenyan Lemu, work UK, the Australians have their own, America in YALI, Mandela Fellowship, and the GS. Everyone is pushing towards leadership and the knowledge economy. That's where the world is going. Unfortunately, Zima said is centered mainly on production, through agriculture, mining, all of those wonderful things that we have to be known for. But the problem with those things is they require a lot of capital, which our government does not have to put into it. So you might teach or say you're empowering young people to focus on agriculture. I think you make them play a course 2 years, 1 year, 1 week. To grow the ground. Whereas you can focus on the knowledge economy, right? You can have someone produce a mobile app. That's one of the Kenya right now is the whole thing for innovative entrepreneurship in IT in Africa. So our focus on technology. If you push out the mobile app, the beauty in like WhatsApp, it scored into a global phenomenon which is worth 19 billion. There's no amount of agriculture you can do in a season because of it 19 billion from one farmer. But this is an app that was made by one person. Our government is doing something, but it's not for the. We need to focus more on the knowledge economy. We need to focus more on what we can get from co-working, from collaborative consumption. And basically, even in Africa right now, collaboration is the new innovation. Government needs to collaborate with the people to come up with first ideas and policies.
Costa, if I can just ask you there, looking at my startups, my up and coming companies in Zimbabwe, focusing on issues like apps, focusing on issues like, small businesses. The young Zimbabweans or the young Africans who are in the rural areas, are they actually able to tap into that market? Because someone at Marua, they might say, okay, Nini, maybe I can do an app, but I'm better apt to deal with my issues in agriculture because that's what I can understand, that's what I can do. Are they able to tap into this market, your entrepreneurship?
I think they are. What needs to be done is there was a program now a while ago in Nigeria where they said this is the rural electrification program. They need to take tier one and the same route as well, that there can be distribution and dissemination of information. If they can put information in the hands of the people in the rural areas, I think they can be more innovative and solve more problems, especially in the agriculture sector, more than we can if we put sugar and down. Because in the rural areas, because the weather is changing because of global climate change, but they are still surviving. That means they are adapting and they are innovating. What will happen if you put information and tools to be able to create in their hands? They can do more.
Thank you there. Mr. Tato, where do you see yourself, say, 5 years from now?
That question, though.
Loaded question.
That question.
I know you don't have a crystal ball, but certainly you have some dreams.
Yeah, I do. I see me working for a non-profit that will be dealing with issues of empowerment, and I'm an educator by profession. And I'm an educator by calling. I believe in educating, imparting knowledge, for betterment of the overall community. So I think I'll be dealing with a non-profit that will be dealing with production of media content, because there's a lot that can be done through the media to educate people, to empower people, trainings, workshops, just equipping people with knowledge. Because I believe when people are knowledgeable, there are just so many things that they can do for themselves. Yeah.
That's true. That's very true. And of course, you're in the media sector, so you may be the one who will be disseminating this information, exactly. As Costa was talking about. The young people who might, on a day-to-day basis, might not have the availability to get this information, but you can impart them with information through your particular medium.
Thank you.
How about running your own, non-profit instead of working for some non-profit?
That's what I said. I will have found it. I really would love to found my own, because the problem with working for someone, there are rules, there are boundaries, and there are times when I'm non-conforming. Yeah, I think I landed up the scholarship because I'm non-conforming, where there is need to be non-conforming. So when you work for someone, they say you can only go this far, but you can't. Like, our cultural context as Africans, you cannot just go around saying, women, you are strong, stand on your own, because other people take offense. Like, what are you teaching these women? Are you trying to so it's like you're getting into other people's relations and marriages and saying women should be unruly, which is not the case. So when you do your own thing, then you know how far you can go.
Very true.
By her own admission, Miss Mochone is a renegade. She doesn't, go by the rules.
Yes.
Interesting. Va muswaire muri poparunare. vamwe vechidiki vakaterera pari zvino vangada kupindawo muzvirongwa izvi zvakawanda zvinodzidzisa vechidiki kuita nyaya dzemabhizinisi kana kuti dzeleadership. Ndeapi mashoko mungada kuvataurira ivo?
Okay, ndingati ndo nzira yandiri kuona kuti ingatibatsira isu vechidiki kuti tizviriritire kana kuti tingaviriritira mhuri dzedu kuti tinge tichitanga mabhizimusi edu toga. Kune makambani akaita seyatakawana yetem elimeri inobatsira vechidiki vakaita kunge isu, asi ine kanzira kayo kakati siyana nekakajairwa nevamwe, kuti vamwe vagara unogona kungopuhwa mari chete pasina zvaonekwa kuti waitei, usina zvawanyora kuti uri kutarisira kunge zvakamira sei kumberi. Saka makambani dzakadari anotibatsira kuti kunyange ukatanga kabhizimusi uri kumusha chaiko kwamutoko kanobudirira nekuti unenge uchiziva nzira dzekufambisa nadzo. Sezvatakaita kuti tinofanira kudzidzisa kuchengetedza mari, kudzishandisa mari dzacho nenzira yakanaka, nekuzokwanisa kudziverenga kuti zveshuwa dzakakwana mari, nekutsvaga kwekutengesera nevanotenga zviramba zvakadaro. Saka ndingangoti nzira iyoyi, pane kuti tirambe tichiita nzira yekuramba tichitsvaga mabasa, munongoziva zviri kuitika, munongopuhwa tsamba, vanhu votoenda kumba. Saka tikagara taita nzira yekunge tazvigadzirira makambani edu madiki anenge kwanza anga achiburitsa mari, achiitira mari, kunyange zvakaoma kudari, tikangoedza kudaro zvinokwanisa kuti tizvibatsire mukati meupenyu.
Thank you there, Mr. Muswairi. And this is a question to all of you guys, our guests. I know the economy is not performing, and in the past month, companies have been firing workers left, right, and center. Is there any of you who has found themselves in that untenable position where you had to say to an employee, I'm sorry, we cannot sustain you anymore, you have to leave?
Ndingangotanga kupindura zvangu. Inini handisati ndasvika ipapo. Inini kuona kwangu chawanzokonzera kuti mabhizimusi atichakwanise kushanda ndechekuti kudzika kwakaita tingati ikonomi yedu kana kuti mapefomero economy pachirungu kwakonzera kuti maoverheads emakambani abva agara ari high asi productivity iri low. Saka kana mune kabhizimusi kadiki kanenge kachingogarawo kane tumaoverheads tushoma shoma iye kachiitawo kamari kashoma shoma, saka zvinenge zvitenge zviri kuenderana. Muchaona kuti makambani ari kuburisa vanhu ari kusara nevamwe vanhu, zvinoreva kuti bhizimusi iri rakuda kutonzira rava diki yatova small business and iri a big corporation. Saka ndingangoona inge senge ndiyo nzira ingangotorwa nenyika yese kugadzira kuti mabhizimusi tudiki tozongoramba tichikura zvacho nekufamba kunenge kuchiita economy yedu.
Tangai, I don't know kuti uri parunare here. Okay, if you can, go ahead.
Okay, for me, in Saturday fellowship, I had been the chief operating officer of a printing company here in Zimbabwe. I think touches upon some of the key points. And my task was to turn around a company that's been struggling for 10, 15 years now. And you go in, you do an analysis on how 90% of your overhead cost, as it may be, was labor cost. And I think my longest serving employee had been there for about 60 years. The job he had been doing pretty much had become obsolete in the sense which were pretty much very much automated. The cost of having to lay him off was the equivalent of paying his salary for about 15 years. So the labor law as it was put me in a position that if I was to look at the sustainability of maintaining that operation, I had to lay him off as well as another 15 or so employees. And that was the economic reality that I was faced with before having to go on the fellowship, which is why I had to give myself a new start to try and see what what it was that I needed to do to reconcile what my professional obligation laid upon me and what the reality of what people's lives was before me. And I think the biggest contributor to that is that people could structurally have been trained to do different things in the 10 years that we faced a lot of economic hardship, but it was taken away. I mean, one day before dollarization, he was useful. The day after, I can bring in a machine and he's become redundant, and it was pretty much a very sad time.
Mm-hmm. And just following up, Zimbabwe, there's a question of lost time. Do you think that even with the changing business practices, the young entrepreneurs coming in, hello, Tangai?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm
So, looking at that, do you think that there'll be enough time to kind of get back into the swing of things, essentially, when Zimbabwe gets better, when the economy gets more stable? Is Zimbabwe losing too much time with what's going on?
Look, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that the biggest challenge we're facing now is that, yes, there is that element of lost time. The bigger challenge is that structurally we might not have prepared our youth to take advantage of the changes that are going on now. I think it's one of those things that has become common play. We sit and we talk. We've got a generation of people that were on the streets and haven't known a hard day's work per se. Changing the mindset of people from realizing that going and doing an arbitrage deal, or what we call kubena, is not going to feed his family for the next 20 years, is the bigger challenge that we have now. Reintroducing our youth into a formal economy where you have to buy your time is pretty much a very big thing. And to be honest, I think we might not only have lost time, but have a lost generation on our hands who, if we don't inspire to go and try and do something bigger than themselves, will continue trying to make a quick deal to make a quick buck. Whereas our responsibility now is to try and build up something from nothing. We have to be the next generation of the Rockefellers. Look at something, build it up from one small shop into a chain of reputable companies. And I think probably that is our biggest challenge right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mnumzana Muleya, ucingo lwakho luyahlupha. Ukhona ecingweni?
Hello?
Okay, Muleya, ungabatshela wapha amazwi sizama ugqiba uhlelo lapha ngamafitshane. Ungabatshela wapha amazwi ontanga abangathanda ukungena labo kunhlelo zemfundo lezi ezifana le Mandela, iTony Elumelu, ele Chevening.
Ngiyabonga. Ngingathi kubalaleli ikakhulu laba basakhulayo ukuthi kabalandele amaphupho abo amahle. Yebo, ungabe ungela indlela zokuthi iphupho lakho lifezakale o liphumelele, kodwa kumele uzame ngazo zonke indlela. Khuluma ngabantu, bonisana labantu ohlangana labo endleleni. Akubathi ngesindebele akwaziyo ukwanonisa ingulube. So ngithi abantu kabakhulume babonisane labadala, labantu abasemangweni yakibo, baxoxisane njalo kababe lothando lelizwe labo, kababe lothando lalapho abahlala khona, abavela khona. Ngakutshela kudala kwakusathiwa uvele dinga, kwathiwa ngatshela abantu uvele dinga, abantu okuhlezi bethi abantu edinga abanjani njani. Kodwa ngilapha ngize ngiyazigada ngokuthi ngivele dinga, ngazalile dinga, ngakhule dinga. So ngithi abantu kabazigade ngokuba yibo kwabo. Ungabe ukhuluma ulimi oluthize, zigade ziqhenye ngalokho oyikho khona. Yikho okuzakwenza uphumelele. Ngathi nguye umzekeliso omkhulu kakhulu engabatshela wona abantu abasakhulayo. Njalo ngingathi kababe lesibindi
lo mbono ongathi ofana lokaNelson Mandela lo George Washington njengalandela ilegacy athiwa ngalezi zinkokheli hayi intalamusa angeke ilahleke.
Hayi
ngamafitane ngiyabona.
Siyabonga Mnumzana Muleya. Let's wrap things up, Ms. Tate. Time is running up.
I think we still have Tawanda on the line, so we'll come to you, Tawanda. Just your parting words, in particular, looking at the other young Zimbabweans who themselves are looking to find a way to be part of this new emerging trend, in particular of young entrepreneurs.
Okay, I'd like to say, like what Mr. Mleya was saying, they have to follow their dreams and see this kind of an economy needs people who are sharp-minded, who can come up with ideas, and these ideas they have to be feasible in a kind of economy in which we are operating in, especially in Zimbabwe. And if you can look at our education system, we are just taught to learn from grade 0 up to university and then get employed. Unfortunately, along the way, up to 23 or so years, one would not have trained to be an entrepreneur. They would have just been trained to work as an accountant or as a marketing executive or something like that. So these programs, they are coming to us quite late when we have grown up and when we have seen that there is no employment. That's when we want to start to come up with something. And it is quite challenging to start to do that when we are now stranded. So some youth, they are fortunate enough to have seen this while they are still young, and they have got the opportunity to learn from others who have done it. We have quite a number of entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe here who have come up with big projects that have grown into big companies. So they should still be able to come up with ideas from wherever they are, be it in farming, accounting, the law, or any other industry, or even HR. They should come up with ideas that should be able to be feasible enough to be able to become businesses in our kind of economy in Zimbabwe. And then we still remain positive that the economy will improve, and it will only improve through us as Zimbabweans working together in different areas.
Thank you there. And Tangai Toya Kwauri, just 30 seconds, your parting words. Tangai? Okay, Tacho will go to you just as we're losing time. But, your parting words, of course, you are still here with us for a few more weeks. What's your parting words?
Okay, to the young people out there, believe in yourself, that you are a person who has something good to give. There isn't a goal you cannot achieve, and you can make your world a better place to live.
And, of course, let's end on a lighter note. Kanye West says... he's a young man. He says he's dreaming of running for U.S. president in 2020. What did you guys make of that?
I don't know if I'll be... We'll see. I don't know his policies, his platform.
I thought he was very ambitious.
You think he's kidding?
No, I think he's very ambitious. He's very ambitious. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Ambition.
And in what Tato said, dreaming is the point. Make sure that you keep your dreams alive, and whatever you envision, go for it. So I'll say that in my very motherly tone. Go for it.
Yeah, that's good for him. But, I also have, huge dreams.
Yes.
But being a politician is not one of them, because I think being a politician is just ordinary. I don't like doing ordinary stuff, regular stuff that everyone can do. I don't like doing that.
So I guess we'll be looking out for you doing something extraordinary.
I want extraordinary, like being an astronaut, being in space.
The first Zimbabwean.
Looking down at Mother Earth.
Yeah.
The
first Zimbabwean in space. I can see it now.
Yes. And I'm going to keep dreaming.
Yes, that is the message. Keep dreaming, everyone.
Don't be ordinary.
Yes, be extraordinary. And on that point, we'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us today on the program. Tunga, who did we have on our star-studded guest list today?
Of course, we had Ms. Tato Mochone here in studio. We also had Constantine Costa Nyanzero, Tawanda Musaire, Promise Muleya, and of course, last but not least, Tangai Murangari. Good night, Zimbabwe. I'm Tungamiri Nkomo.
And I'm Tatenda Gumbo, and hoping you will join us next week on Tuesday, same time, same place. Have a wonderful night and wonderful week.